you, everybody. I'm so excited to be here today. And I am really excited to talk to this panel because we have some incredible women that we're all going to be inspired by and learn from. But first, clap it up for yourselves, all this women empowerment in the room. And for our couple of fellas, thank you guys. We appreciate you being here. So we're gonna jump right into it. I wanna introduce our panel because again, I have a true confession. Once I learned who was going to be on the panel, I started doing some cyber stalking, and so I am very impressed by each of you. So first we have Councilwoman Jennifer Staubach Gates. Y'all clap it for her, please. We also have Lindsay Billingsley, the founder and CEO of Lab Strategy. Tosha Herron-Bruff, the VP of Public Affairs for Dallas Habitat for Humanity. We also have Vonshe Jenkins, the Senior Vice President of Procurement Executive for Bank of America. And we have McMahon, the President and CEO of the Real Estate Council. All right, so our first set of questions is for Councilwoman Gates. So you're from Dallas, you have that famous maiden name that I'm sure people ask you about all the time. But what a lot of people don't know about you is that you actually started your career as a registered nurse. So please explain to me, how do you go from being a registered nurse to running for office?
I think I asked that question now. I've been serving for 7 years, so, and I still haven't come up with the perfect answer for that question. But I have always felt like you really get back to where you're called at the time. I kind of learned that from my parents. I was raised in an environment where my parents taught us, much is given, much is expected. I saw them in the community. I saw them giving back. My mom reminded me at one time when I was walking out the door, make sure you don't step on your own child to help another child. So I was going out to do an activity, and those were just lessons I learned. And I think it was that my background as a nurse, I had that in me to give back, take care, nurture others, and I got to do it through a profession. And then as my kids got older, I stayed home with them and I was volunteering, and just opportunities, doors were open. And as my husband and I were empty nesters, 1 year empty nesters, so pretty quick, and the opportunity arose to run for city council. And I love City of Dallas, and it was an opportunity to give back to the city I love and serve neighborhoods that I had been part of for years and years. And I jumped in the race pretty naive of what the world was going to be at City Hall, but I served one term and ran for 3 more, and I've loved it ever since. So.
Okay, so you did bring up the fact that when you first ran, you were very naive. So if there's other women in the room that are considering running, what do they need to consider?
I remember I sat with my family first, and they were very mixed about it. To be honest, it was one of my daughters just took her back, very surprised. My husband was very supportive of it, and that was kind of, I said, you're supportive. And he suggested I talk to the mayor, just have an idea of what the job description was. So I set up a meeting with Mayor Rawlings at the time, and he was, very coy and just could say, I want you to run or don't want you to run, but gave me some information, set me up with a consultant to talk about it with, and I asked the consultant, I said, can I do this? And I thought, I've learned something since, that women tend to ask themselves those questions. Can I do this? And a man will just jump right in, not knowing if he can or not. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, we should, but that you are willing to ask yourself, or do you have the skills? But we question ourselves, I think, a little too often, and we want to make sure everybody around us is okay with the decision. It's okay to take those, to do something that you feel right, and you're going to be more equipped than you think. And I found out I wasn't equipped, didn't need to know everything about City Hall, but I was equipped with having community that was supportive of me and that trust. They knew I wasn't going to know everything about City Hall, but they trusted in my judgment, and they trusted in my decision-making process because they'd seen me and worked with me before.
So you actually see the issues of Dallas from a unique perspective. we see it one way from the outside, you're definitely on the inside. So what would you say you're currently working on for women in the community to set that pace, maybe economically or otherwise for women?
Yeah, I mean, you open the paper every day and you can see the challenges that we face as a city. We're a city that's somewhat divided. There's a lot of haves and have-not, a lot of discussion about bridging the gap. And especially, with women. I think we talked about it with the Habitat. I think women need to help other women. We need to lift each other up. And it really, when we start talking about trying to deal with poverty in our city, often if you can lift the woman up, because there's the single families, but they're kind of the glue that binds. If they're successful, their children are going to be more successful. So we do that in third world countries all over. We talk about empowering the women in the community to make a difference, but we need to do that here in Dallas. And so I think we have initiatives that we're working on to be able to lift the women up in the community, knowing that the family's going to follow.
Awesome. All right, our next set of questions is going to be for Miss Linda. I'm going to continue to repeat these titles because I am so into celebrating women and their accomplishments. So Ms. Linda is the president and CEO of the Real Estate Council, which is amazing as well. Now, you are known for being one of the city's strongest leaders. Tell us about your journey, because I'm trying to figure out, we're playing teacher and student, maybe doctor when we're little. Were you the one that you always knew you were going to be a CEO?
Well, I can't say that that's the case. I will say that I had 4 brothers and I was the middle child, so I had to defend myself from an early age. And I learned that I could dominate pretty quickly, mostly by using my intelligence over their brawn. And then my father actually treated me like a princess, so that was a little bit nice too. But still, no, I can't say that when I thought about what I was going to do, it was going to be being CEO, but there's nothing better, frankly, than being the boss. It is really kind of empowering to be able to say that, you have an opportunity to do things differently as a woman and as a leader, but it's also a big responsibility to be a CEO and a president of an organization or a company, because everything relies on you, and at the end of the day, the buck does stop with you. But I will say my youngest daughter told me from day one she was going to be the boss. So I think I must have given her some of that confidence early.
So how would you say you use your role to advocate for women in real estate?
Well, the majority of the commercial real estate industry, which is what we are, is a male-dominated, white male-dominated business, frankly. So there are more and more women in the business, but we're trying to get even more women into the business, and we're also trying to really increase the diversity in the industry for women and men of color, because we think that's really, really important. So from the perspective of just making sure that we're making that the women are at the table and have an opportunity to lead is really an important part of that. Providing them with leadership training opportunities, providing them exposure, and frankly, sometimes just advocating for them on a one-on-one basis, which is really, really important. So when I came on board of the organization, it was an all-women staff, which I'd never ever worked in an office that was all women. I had always worked in mostly male-dominated business. And now we have actually men in the office, which some of our members thought was really kind of strange. But it's kind of an interesting business, running a trade organization and a foundation, et cetera, and the work that we do in community investment. But then really the people that are members of our organization, we have 2,200 members that are in the commercial real estate industry in all facets. So we get every kind of response you can possibly imagine. But the one thing I will say that's also very empowering is every single one that I actually have an opportunity to interact with want to do something that improves this city and wants to do something that improves our community, and also has an eye on equity, and that's really an important part, and that makes us feel good about what we do every single day.
So let's touch on that, improving the community, using our platform for good. How can other business leaders and other women use their platform for good?
Well, I think, one, you need to understand what the issues are. The councilwoman obviously sees those things every single day. But, I've had people say, oh, I can't go to South Dallas because that's dangerous. Well, frankly, your neighborhood's probably a lot more dangerous than any place in South Dallas. But I think it's one getting to, which is true. I think it's one getting to know your city and really getting to make yourself meet people of different backgrounds and expose yourself to people that aren't like you. And so the only way that you can do that is just get outside of your comfort zone. And so I've been doing this a really long time, and I go places that people kind of question my judgment on, but I've never, in my history in community development or my history with the Real Estate Council, have ever had a situation in a neighborhood or with a community group or any kind of interaction that we've had where it hasn't ended up in a positive experience and I've learned something. So I think, one, getting exposure to communities you're not usually familiar with, and two, understanding that truly not everyone has the same opportunity as you, and your zip code determines your future a lot more than anything else that you do, and that's a pretty sad statement.
Yes.
So you just have to get out there.
I love that. Now, Miss Tosha, I've actually known Miss Tosha for many, many years. I consider her a personal friend of mine. And she's always...
Watch what you ask for.
They told me to
be cute.
Stick to the script, okay?
Stick to the script.
I have some really great stories.
She does.
You honestly have always been a fierce advocate for women. That's one thing I can honestly say about you. Can you please tell everybody that may not know you and your journey, how you rose to the ranks of vice president? I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting what a title will do. A title will open doors for you. People take your calls. People think, something of you. Your reputation will precede you almost by a title. But when I first came in, I shook Miss McMahon's hand because this lady is a boss.
Yes.
And she's the real deal. But my dad had a business, still has a business for a very, very long time in Oak Cliff and in real estate. And I worked in the business with my father. And Habitat at one point was buying a lot of properties from us during the real estate crisis when a lot of people lost their homes to foreclosure. We were able to capture a large inventory of that property. And Habitat at the same time started an initiative to purchase those houses, refurbish them and resell them. And so a lady who was doing work with our office said, we bought 40 properties right here in Southwest Dallas from you guys, but we don't have anybody that knows how to market, knows the industry, knows the neighborhoods. We need somebody. And my brother, who runs kind of the day-to-day operations of the office, he said, you're not doing anything. This sounds like something you could do. Thank you, Al. And I took that on, and I came on to Habitat, and we sold those properties. People got wonderful homes, and the leadership at that time said, well, you know what? We've just been awarded $29 million for neighborhood stabilization, and we're going to be building over 300 homes, and we need somebody that understands what we do. And so they contracted me, and they said, we think we want you to stay. And in that moment, I was comfortable. I could come work with Daddy, and if I needed to leave when I wanted to and do what I wanted to.
That's the life we all want.
Right now, I don't know, working for Al Herron has challenges and pros. But in that moment, I realized, there was something greater that I could take, my own experience and skills to help somebody else. And so I came to Habitat, did that, and ran our homeowner services team for almost 10 years. And my boss was in the back after 10 years, so shortly after he got there, he invited me out to lunch. And we had just, our homeownership center is thriving, it's doing well. And he takes me to lunch, and I'm like, okay, so only one or two things could be happening. So either I could be getting another opportunity, or this could be a pink slip for me. So we go to lunch, he says, pick the restaurant. I should have picked a better restaurant. And he said, pick the restaurant. We went there, and he said, Tosha, I have an opportunity for you. I think you would be the perfect person to run our government affairs and government relations and public affairs group. And I was thinking, why? Why would I be, just like what you were saying, we're so quick to give into self-doubt. It's almost inherent that we think, is this real? Start second guessing yourself. And it's interesting because if we undervalue what we do or what we bring to the table, so will everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so he saw something in me that I didn't see. And so I said, this is an opportunity for me to get a little uncomfortable to do something else. And so that's how I then became in this position, which I absolutely love.
Okay, so let's talk about the role that you played in advocating for women in housing.
Yes.
And it's very important. What a lot of people don't realize is housing is so important when it comes to financial stability as well. So let's talk about both of those.
It's, we live in a country of lots of freedoms, but we also live in the reality that everybody doesn't have the same opportunities. And because people want and desire home ownership doesn't mean it's so. And so we have a large number of people who want and desire home ownership, but it eludes them. And you talk about Dallas in particular, a city that's wealthy, that's thriving, and you see all this development and things that are going around, but you have people that cannot afford the cost of home. And we think that that's unacceptable. And so part of my position is advocacy and helping bring about policy solutions and changes for that. But one of the things that we focus on is financial education. And we know that if we can equip someone or a borrower or someone who comes in our program in how to make better financial decisions, it can change the trajectory of their family. Mm-hmm. We know that housing, the house where you live, to own the place where you live, especially if you are a mother, will provide advantages and benefits to not only you but to your children. Children do better off in school. This is the fastest way to independent wealth and financial stability, is in housing. And so we understand the importance of that, so much so Blaine Coward, who is our senior director of homeowner services, just inked a partnership with Dallas Independent School District to have our financial education in the school systems. So isn't that great? Yes. So we can figure out, how do we help families get on equal playing field so that you may begin to provide a better quality of life for your family. So we know that it's so important that we understand that partnerships in doing this, we can't do it alone, that we have to continue to promote financial stability. And one of the reasons why we do that is because we know that for generations and generations to come, women see what their moms do. Women, you grow up in a house where you see mom owned her house and that she made great decisions with money, generally those children will then follow. So we know that it's really important and vital, not only to that family, but to the economic stability of Dallas. Yes. Yeah.
One thing that I see there's a common thread here, it's God has a sense of humor, because you're going down this one path and a lot of you have turned into something completely different that may not have matched up before. So that leads me to you, Miss Lindsay, founder and CEO. Once again, another amazing title. A lot of people don't know, you actually made the transition from commercial real estate, and now you're doing fundraising. I don't see how they do it. It doesn't make sense to me. So tell us about your leap and how you made that transition.
Well, I was in commercial real estate for a little over 15 years, and although I absolutely love the industry, and my family is actually still in the industry, I didn't feel a deep sense of fulfillment and purpose. And like, you know, when I was younger, I just had this yearning in my heart, like I was gonna be the best commercial real estate broker, or I was gonna learn development, and that kind of feeling wasn't there anymore. And so I didn't feel a sense of fulfillment. And I realized that I could use the skills that I learned in commercial real estate, which was this investment sales professional approach to fundraising for nonprofits and a few political candidates, and helping them expand sustainable donor bases while professionalizing their approach. So I just jumped off the diving board.
Jeez, I wish I had your. I'm telling you, I need more faith. I'm telling you. So philanthropy is obviously very important to you. So there are a lot of women sitting in the room that would like to be involved in their community and in philanthropy. How do you recommend they take the dive?
Well, philanthropy is an important aspect of my life. I think the question read, how did you come to love philanthropy? And as a little girl, my dad gave my sister Carly and I we each got a notebook. And in it were 3 zipper pouches. So you remember those when you went to school, you could put your pencils in them? And on the first one it said 10% giveaway. And the next one said 20% save, which I was never good at. And then the last one was 70% you could spend. And my dad taught us that the beauty of life lied in that 10% pouch. And that none of this was ours anyway. We were just stewards of it for a little while. So I just had this innate sense in my being that I was born to give back.
Wow.
And when I entered commercial real estate in 2004, there weren't as many organizations for young people. So a couple men, well, they were actually boys at the time, and I was a lone female, approached the real estate council and said, we want to start an organization for young people. We want it to be called the Young Guns, and if you believe in us, we will get you like at least 200 members. I think Linda said they now have 2,200 members. 1,000 of them are Young Guns. Okay, so we created this idea and approached them and said, believe in us. And they did. And so that's one idea for you, is that if you see a gap in the market or an opportunity, to approach someone with your idea and your strategy, and it might take hold. Later on, about 8 years ago, I was also in Trek's Associate Real Estate Council, and we went to tour a KIPP charter school, and I was just floored. I was like, I'm quitting my job, I'm joining the team, what they're doing for children is incredible. My husband's like, no, you're not quitting your job, you still have college debt, you know. So I called the board chair of KIPP, his name's Peter Brodsky, and I was like, Peter, I need a seat at the table. I'm passionate, I'm fired up. So he presented it. They didn't really have that many people as interested at the time, so hot damn, I got a board seat. And after I got my board seat, I proved myself, and they let me chair their annual Are You Smarter Than a Kipster event. And this is really where I learned fundraising. The year I chaired it, we raised over $700,000 for KIPP charter schools. So I'd say, come on in, the water is fine.
So many of us have our aspirations to run our own business. It takes a set of skills, and you have that set of skills because you're doing it successfully. So what are those skills, and do you have some hacks? We love hacks, don't we? We love little shortcuts, some tools and some hacks that you can give all of us that are most helpful when it comes to running your own business.
Okay. You definitely have to be a self-starter and be organized and be able to organize your day and just wake up with this desire to achieve. But also my tools and hacks, it's kind of hard because I'm kind of fresh on this. This is a new endeavor for me. But number one, surround yourself with working with people that you really enjoy and love. I have to say that Linda and Trek have been a client. Tosha and Habitat for Humanity are a client. And hello, you guys have met these people. They're fun to work with. I wake up like, yes, I'm pumped to go meet them. But also for me, because I do just have this go-getter spirit, is making sure I don't take on too much, because I could very easily get myself spread too thin and I won't be as effective. So managing my time.
That's good, because I think as women we take on, we don't really know how to say no, and boy, we will become exhausted and we're not able to work to our full potential. So I love that. Next we have Miss Vonshe. I love her title, Senior Vice
Lady
President.
Jade. I'm a fan. I'm fanning out right now.
Okay, well, you have a very interesting role,
I do.
a leading role at Bank of America.
Yeah.
So how would you say that you're using your role to champion from the inside?
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the role because I think that'll set the stage. So don't let the braces fool you. I'm going into my 23rd year with Bank of America.
Wow, congratulations.
And thank you. And I've led teams in finance, supply chain, corporate real estate. Matter of fact, when I left that leadership role, I advocated for a woman to take my spot. They wanted to hire a man. That wasn't going to happen. But now I feel after 23 years, I'm in a role where my passion and my purpose meet what they pay me to do every day.
Wow.
And so my passion really is around diverse business entrepreneurship. Because I know the role that that plays in economic mobility. When we talk about economic mobility, we talk a lot about home ownership, education, etc. But I think entrepreneurship is right in that wheelhouse, and I've lived it. So, you know, my dad was a corporate man, still is for many years, but it was my mom's innovation and her desire to be an entrepreneur that moved us down that, or moved us up that economic ladder. So I cherish that. So I lead a team by the name of Supplier Diversity and Responsible Sourcing. And it's long, that's a long name, and the company tells me to shorten it, and I refuse. Because we do a lot. We do a lot that contributes to the bottom line, but we do a lot that has tangible benefit to the communities that we serve across the U.S. So I would look at it in two parts. Supplier diversity. My team is responsible for making sure that we have a diverse supply chain. And every time we go to bid for a product or service, a diverse business is part of that opportunity to bid. We spend a lot of money every year, $18 billion in our supply chain. $2 billion of that we spend with diverse businesses, and that's really important to us. And for the businesses that we can't do business with, and there's a lot, when you're buying in financial services, you're not buying everything that you would think we would be buying. It's important for us to reach out and help businesses who are growing. So we award $1 million in scholarships every year to small businesses. We have financial training like access to capital. I sponsor over 35 nonprofits that align to this work. So that's one piece. And the other piece is responsible sourcing. So our environmental social governance strategy for the company really plays into the part of how we think about responsible growth. And so we want to be good stewards in the globe. We want to make sure that we're carbon neutral. We want to help women across the globe realize their dreams in entrepreneurship. We want to make sure that we combat AIDS. So there's a lot that we do, but my job is to make sure that all of those values align and translate to the relationships we have with our vendors. Basically put, we don't want to go into business with companies that don't value the world as we do. And so not only do we set that expectation of our huge vendor relationships, but we hold them accountable through the process. So that's my job.
That's a lot.
Yeah. It's cool, I have a cool job.
So let's talk about diversity and inclusion.
Yes.
And why that is so important.
Well, I think one, we have a lot of people, including the people in this room, that strive to see diversity and inclusion not be the topic of the conversation anymore. But we're not there. We've done a lot of work, we continue to do a lot of work, but we are just not there. So it is up to us to use our voice and our space to make sure that we continue to drive that. And I tell the women that I coach and mentors that we all have a voice. You determine if it's small or large, and we all take up space, every single one of us. Now, it's up to you to determine how you take up that space. Now, in my corporation, I choose to use my voice and take up my space by talking about things like this. I can talk about a lot of things, but driving this, diversity inclusion, in our communities, in our corporations, supporting nonprofits that do this work is something that I find to be important.
I love your passion about that. Awesome. You're obviously a change agent. That's what we're here for today. Everybody here is a change agent. But what does that mean to you?
And that can be somewhat of a kitschy word, because a lot of people throw that around. So you gotta really, really define it for yourself. But for me, I talk to a lot of people who talk about the things that they want to do. You gotta do it. A change agent is doing the things that they're talking about. That's one piece of it. I think the other piece of it is being a change agent is being innovative. I think sometimes we get into an idea of what we want to change and how we want to change it, and when it doesn't look that way, we kind of back off. But we got to continue to think about innovative ways to make change. And it's being extremely courageous. Change is hard. I stress all the time. We all stress about making the impact that we want to make. And it's stressful, it's hard, but we've got to give ourselves some grace there. And another thing I've learned about being a change agent, it's really not from myself or the work that I do, but I am lucky to know a lot of change agents. One is in the room, a dear friend of mine. And change agents are able to articulate their passion while they're making the change to impact. This is why this change is important, and this is why it needs to change.
Well, I will say each of you are uber successful, but the thing that I love is that you're planting seeds for our future. And there are young ladies, teenagers, elementary kids, millennials that are looking at you saying, I can be like you one day. And that is why your success is so important for those that are going to come behind you. So let's talk about that. So anybody can answer this question, so I'll let you guys share the mic so anybody can jump in. What do you feel most inspired by when you look at the opportunities that young girls will have that maybe you did not?
I think that's an excellent question. I think about my own daughter, who is 9 going on like 39. And I just think about everything that she's exposed to now. I think when I was 9 years old, I didn't see people always represented that looked like me. I did not necessarily see that. And you see more of it. I agree with Vonshe, we're not there yet, but I do think that a lot of young ladies have an advantage more so than I ever did, and that you see more opportunities for young women, even young women of color, to really propel themselves in any area that they want to be in. And I think we, it used to be, it was you go, you get a job, you stay on that job, you do that job, you retire from that job, and you say, wow, look at the career that I had. Now, you get a job, right? Because it's necessary. You have to pay the bills, like you mentioned. But I think young women now know that I can get a job to pay the bills, but there's something in me that will then become a career, will become what I'm passionate about. I look at you and starting your own nonprofit. Being on the radio was a way, as a job, it was your skill, but what you created from that was out of your passion. And I think we're able to see more women advocate leaders in that role that are really saying, you think about, we have a young woman who is not even, she's a teenager going around the world impacting climate change. I mean, she's the Time Woman of the Year, right? And she's 14. My daughter gets to see that. And so I think that's an advantage that we have now that we probably didn't have, more so back then.
Right.
Yeah.
I love this question. What are some key areas or programs in our region that we can continue building on for young girls in our region? And then let's talk about the areas that we may need to pay more attention to that may get left by the wayside.
Well, I think there's the traditional organizations. And I'm a big fan of Girl Scouts still, which I think is lifting up women. And now girls can be part of the Boy Scouts. I don't know how successful that's going to go, but the Boy Scouts is having some issues right now. But I've been involved in a group for called Ignite, which is for young women looking to they're interested in public service. And I think there's a lot of, club levels at schools that are geared to helping empower women and that have women mentorship programs, which I think is really important. I think women need to be, we talked about this a little bit, but mentoring other young women and supporting each other. I think there's, unfortunately, too often like competition among women, and I'm the only woman in this space, and they might, like it that way,
Sure.
and that is, it's unhealthy, and we should be not threatened by that. So, women mentoring women programs, I think is, if in your industry is really important. So.
Yes, I agree totally. And also, I spent over a decade in education, and that was my sphere of interest. And
You have done a lot.
well, really, I was so very young. I was on KIP, and now I'm on the Teach for America Regional Board. And I love education and the strides that DISD has made and will continue to make. But my good friend, Miguel Solis, he's a DISD school board trustee, and he was a teacher in DISD. He's like, Lindsay, I love all the work that you're doing in education, but you really also need to focus on housing, because as a teacher for 7th grade students, a number of my students would move mid-year to chase rent, and it's a huge setback.
Yeah.
And then they have to get to know their new teacher. They might be somewhere different in the program than they were at their old school. They have to make new friends. And so this importance of housing is so real to create this stability and a strong foundation. And that's why I love the work of Habitat for Humanity in our community.
Can we talk about self-doubt? We mentioned it earlier. We deal with it weekly, daily. Again, you even mentioned, Ms. McMahon, you mentioned the fact of just questioning yourself. Can I do this? Can we talk about self-doubt and how do you overcome self-doubt?
Well, I think one thing you need to do to grow yourself is to really understand your strengths and weaknesses and truly understand what makes you different and distinctive from anybody else. So women have amazing communication skills. The most successful people in any business are those that know how to communicate. So a lot of people go, let's get an MBA and let's get that finance degree and we're going to be able to be powerhouses in finance. They can't talk to anybody else about anything else except numbers. That's boring. When you're trying to build your network, you need to be able to have a lot of different interests that you can have a conversation with people about a lot of different things. So learn about other things and gain confidence by your interactions with other people and really knowing yourself. And I think that's one of the most important things. And then also what makes you different. And the point you made about passion, that's super important. I mean, you have to earn a living, and sometimes the things you want to do don't pay you enough to earn that living. So you have to figure out how to feed yourself until you can figure out how to make it into a business that you actually are passionate about. So passion is important, but it really has a lot more to do with what are your personal skills, what do you bring to the table, and knowing that. And when you know who you are, then you will be confident in who you are, And I'm actually one of those few women that doesn't feel like being in an all-woman organization makes a lot of sense, because that's not the world we're living in, and you have to get out there and duke it out with the guys. And as a matter of fact, that's really one of the toughest things I think women learn in business is they expect, and I think your point about women they're not necessarily great mentors because they're worried about controlling their space. That is real. I can testify to it. And in business, that is a very real thing. So don't count on the fact that there's a woman that may be senior to you, that she's going to help you out. She's going to help you out if you can help her out. And so you have to be very confident in yourself, because otherwise you're never going to be successful. And we do a lot of leadership development, and several people in our ALC class are really awesome. But one of the things that I found out, we brought an executive coaching firm in to work with each one of the classmates, and they did a whole battery of tests. And we had some small lunch groups where women and men in the class were talking about each other, or talking about their challenges. And one woman, which really astounded me even to this day, she said, well, I want to say this in a meeting, and I don't want to come across as sounding pushy. And she said to this young man, what do you think about that? And he said, just say it. Your problem is your problem, but people need you to contribute. Now, don't take up space. Don't take up, fill up the world with a lot of words, but you have to just empower yourself, because no one can do this but you. And as much as you want someone to help you out, you have to help yourself out first.
Parameters around social media is a good way to deal with self-doubt.
Yeah, right.
Social media can be so destructive, and at the same time, it can be a tool to help build your business. But you also, I think, you have to believe that the realities of those worlds are not always real realities. And so, don't read the comments.
Turn them off.
Two is, be concerned about who takes up agency in your life and in your space, and surround yourself with people that can add to. And when you're feeling doubtful, that person can refill. I think that is hugely important. That sometimes we tend to surround ourselves with people that are just as doubtful. They're not going anywhere. They're not doing anything. You can't be bothered with that. And I see, I know of people in here that have aspirations and desires, and you have to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with those people that can bring value and that can push you and that can be brutally honest when you need it. And to me, that's important. Surround yourself with a circle of people that can add value to you. Yeah.
And Carmen, I'll add to that, because I think to get to that circle, which, I think for us, we probably have, it's admitting as women that we do have self-doubt. I think some of us want to be so strong, and we're embarrassed to have self-doubt, or if we do, then, there's no way that these women can have self-doubt. I'm pretty sure we were all looking over our notes last night thinking about what we were going to say and hopefully making an impact on this audience. But we've got to be really honest with ourselves, and that's okay, and then build our tribe to help build us up. And the other thing I would say, because I've grown up in the financial industry, and when I was doing this 20 years ago, there was no women, and there was no black women, so I was just like, well, I just got to do this thing. And the thing about what I've learned about being in the room with a lot of women all the time, or a lot of men all the time, is when women, sometimes we just make a thing, and it's not a thing. Men are like, it's not a thing, like, let's just keep it moving, and they keep it moving. We will make a thing, sit on the thing, do that thing. Oh my gosh, you gotta learn to let some of this stuff go and think about the bigger picture, right?
Right. Oh, that is so funny. Every woman in here can attest to that, right? We have made nothing a thing.
For those of you I haven't met, my name is Dina DeNoyer-Stroh. I had the great opportunity to chair Dallas Area Habitat for Humanity in this incredible year of Women Build Dallas. Yes. To the extent you guys think you haven't had an impact, I guarantee you have. Absolutely. Let's give them another big round of applause. I really want to thank everyone for coming here. This is a huge initiative for Habitat, as you might be aware. So I'm so excited, the enthusiasm, the panel, all the attendees. I'm excited for the men that are here. Thank you, men, also. Appreciate that. And with that, I get to introduce our first chair for the inaugural Women Build Dallas, which is AJ Barkley. Come on up and talk about what Dallas area has.
All right, so I am delighted to be with you. I am AJ Barkley. I am the Neighborhood Lending Executive for Bank of America. So I get the opportunity every morning to live Women Build Dallas, not just for women. I try to help other people get involved as well. So my job is to make sure I help low to moderate income, multicultural, and first-time home buyers realize the power of home ownership through sustained home ownership, to help build wealth and all of the things that these lovely women talked about today. So this is, I have to make sure you understand this because we talked about being a change agent, right? And I think people are like, well, how do I do this and what can I do? And is there something I can do? Yeah, I have something you could do to help if you're trying to figure it out. I think there's like 100 women. How many women in this room? 100 women in this room. What's the 100th year anniversary this year in 2020? The 19th, what is that amendment? Right to vote. All right, so if you're trying to figure it out, you're not sure where, and you want to spend more time with the women that you have in the room, and you want to network, because we're not going to solve it all today. I am inviting you. I think I have spaces for 80 more women. So don't run after me. I'll be right here. I got you. We can do 110. It's okay. But what we want to do is have 100 women be committed as part of this women's build. We are going to raise $1 million. Now, Dave, I said $2 million the other day. We're going to do it, Dave, I promise. But $1 million. And let me just tell you what it is. We're not building $1 million home. I just want to make sure everybody understands. The $1 million does several things for us in this part of the women's build. One, we are going to build a home. And we're building a home, we're going to start the building of the home on March 4th. We have a lot of things we can do before that. But we're also going to repair 10 homes, which is also important. Again, around sustained home ownership, that the mother can be proud, that the child has a backyard and everything is functioning and working. But the other piece, the largest part of that fund is the stuff that we've talked about here, is how do we build financial literacy so that people can start to build their wealth long term to create a legacy for themselves and their families. And you can be part of that. So I'm just going to ask those of you from Dallas Habitat, could you raise your hand so people know where to go? If you kind of turn around and look in the back, if you're trying to figure out who do I go to, where do I get more information, AJ, I'm signed up. You can join my team. I still got spaces on my team, Barkley Builders. Sorry, Venezuela. She has a team too. So if you have a team already, do you mind standing if you're already part of the Women's Build? Let's give them a hand. So thank you so much for being here. I know we're here till about 1. There's great food. By the way, that's a women's company that's actually here. So if you have, this is how you pay it forward and you do all of the things. If any of you are thinking about doing an event, you're thinking about something that you need to do, leverage the power of the people we have in the room. This is a good time to share what you do with each other as well so we can help build this legacy together. Thank you guys so much for coming today.
Please clap it up for every woman on this panel.